Oh, yes. That's right, everybody. Here we go. MMA Engine YouTube channel, Monday Night Balls Deep Breakdown. I apologize. I'm late today. My computer is dying a slow death over here. It took me like 20 minutes to get 2 minutes worth of work done, but here we are. Better late than never. Ready to break down an absolute banger that's coming up on this UFC Vegas 50 card, you guys. My word, do we have a great fight for you guys to break down today. It is going to be Alex Pereira squaring off against Bruno Blindado Silva. Don't get it twisted. Somebody is getting slept. The fight doesn't go to decision line is right now at a minus 600. Let me just kind of get these lines going across the bottom for you guys. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous. These guys are very, very, very exciting fighters. They're both finishers. They both have got an absolute ton of power. And we got Alex Pereira, who's the guy that's famous for knocking out Israel Adesanya as a kickboxer, one of the greatest kickboxers on the planet Earth, going up against a guy here in Bruno Silva, who is a very well-rounded and very experienced mixed martial artist who's fought all over the world, who has some absolutely fantastic victories on his resume, and is coming into the UFC here on a 3-fight win streak, all 3 wins by knockout in the UFC. And prior to that, we got a couple more knockouts in a row. This guy is on an absolute heater, and it promises to be an absolute banger. Want to see what's up to everybody that's joining us here on the brand new MMA Engine YouTube channel here in the chat. And we got my guy Daz Files is the first in the room saying, let's go Smooth Jimmy. He obviously is going to be here. We did, look, the MMA Engine probably is not going to be profitable for a very long time because let me tell you something about Smooth Jimmy. The lawyers that negotiate on his behalf are absolute killers. He has absolutely broken the bank, but he will be appearing here on the YouTube channel. However, I don't see us being profitable for maybe the next 50 years as a result of what we had to pay him to be on this channel. But you know what? You guys deserve the best, man. And Smooth Jimmy will be along for the ride, you guys. We got my guy Lou Betya in the room saying, Bruno Silva needs to change his name so we don't have multiple Bruno Silvas in our system. See, I put him in my system as Bruno Blindado Silva, but my system is an Excel spreadsheet, and Lou Betya's system is something that's a lot more complicated and technologically advanced than my system. So we do have 2 Bruno Silvas in the UFC. One of them is fighting at 125 pounds, and another one is fighting at 205 pounds. So luckily, when you see them in the same room at the same time, you'll know which one is which. But yeah, 2 Bruno Silvas, man. And this one that we're about to see, actually, both of them, incredibly exciting and fun fighters to watch. Maybe Pereira can hit him so hard that his name changes to Ted Silva or Brain Dead Silva, because that's the kind of power that Alex Pereira has. It's terrifying, you guys. He has terrifying power. We got my guy DFS by the numbers in the room saying, oi! Yes. And we got Paul Brasfield saying, let's crush the books, guys. Salute Uncle Weezy. Salute you, Paul. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Chris for the Love MMA saying, oi! Hope for another good week, fam. Yeah, man, I had a great week last week. And I am hoping that all of you guys have a great week this week because we got some decent fights to try to find some spots in here. We got Mark Schillingberg saying, oi! And we got Daz File saying, bet smart, maintain the right mindset, and let's bash these bookies. Giving us a famous quote there from my guy, Lucrative MMA, one of the best tracked bettors on the planet right now for the sport of MMA. And that guy is an absolute killer. So giving us some wisdom from that man in this room is always much appreciated. Daz Files, big up yourself. Thank you for hanging out. We got Effie, Any Action Sportscast saying, oi, smash that like. I completely agree, Effie. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We got Mark Schillingberg saying minus 600. And what Mark is referring to is the fight doesn't go to decision line for this fight. A 3-round fight. priced at minus 600, which means I believe if my math in my head is correct, we're looking at an 83.33% implied probability that this fight finishes inside the scorecard, inside the distance. And you know what that means is, if you want to be profitable as a long-term gambler, betting fights like this going the distance, you better be right at least 90% of the time, my friend. Otherwise, there's no point in making the bet, because the return on investment is so small that, it's not even worth laying that kind of juice to win that kind of money back. It's very, very difficult to do. So minus 600, you guys, the bookies are on it. And what they are telling us, and they're telling us with no ambiguity, that somebody's getting served on Saturday night. Their name is either going to be Bruno Silva or Alex Pereira, and they are going to get served in violent fashion, according to the bookies. And the bookies don't get these wrong very often. And we got my guy Zero Miedo in the house saying, "Oi, what is up, dude? Good to see you in here, brother. Much appreciated for the generous donation you gave during story time with Uncle Weezy on my channel last week, man. And if you guys haven't checked that out, check that out on my YouTube channel, The Story Time with Uncle Weezy. It talks about kind of like where I came from in order to be doing this. It was a great video. I really enjoyed sharing that with you guys. And another guy who gave me an amazingly generous donation on that video, my guy Victor De Jesus, saying, "Oi, yes, let's cash these tickets, Uncle. Let's go. Let's go balls deep into the stats for this fascinating UFC Vegas 50 matchup between Alex Pereira and Bruno Blindado Silva. Let's hope my punk ass computer doesn't die out on us here, and then we can get all the stats up on the screen for you guys to see nice and clear here. And let me share my screen with you. Let me see if my co-host Smooth Jimmy Apollo is ready to roll here. And if he is, we can get down to business. And it looks like he is. Let me see if he's out from makeup yet. This is Chrome Lock out there. Yeah, there we go, you guys. That means it's time for another Balls Deep breakdown with me, your host, Uncle Weezy, your co-host, Smooth Jimmy Apollo, right 52% of the time, talking about a fight where somebody will be getting served, you guys, and that will be this Alex Pereira versus Bruno Blindado Silva. So we got all the stats up on the screen. Looks pretty sharp there. So let's go, man. Let's start right here at the tail of the tape. And Bruno Silva going to be 2 years younger here, you guys. It is Alex Pereira who's going to be 4 inches taller and who is going to have a 6-inch reach advantage on the feet. Both of these guys are listed as orthodox fighters. Alex Pereira's best weapon is that left hand. And Bruno Silva fights out of both stances, really. He is a switch stance fighter from what I've seen on tape. So he will be fighting out of both stances. He fights out of the southpaw stance quite a bit. So even though both of these guys are listed as orthodox fighters on UFCstats.com, I disagree. I do believe that Bruno Silva is fighting as a switch stance fighter or a southpaw fighter more often than not. And if he wants to kind of keep that left hand of Alex Pereira in check, he might want to fight out of that southpaw stance, so that, well, he might want to fight out of the orthodox stance at first, but he will switch stances here. But what's really important here, you guys, is the experience advantage for mixed martial arts. So obviously Alex Pereira has been in combat sports for his whole life. He's one of the best kickboxers on planet Earth, but he's got only 5 professional mixed martial arts fights, while Bruno Silva has 28. So we got a huge experience advantage here for Silva. 23 pro fights, over 100 minutes in the pro cage, and about 6 more years as a professional mixed martial artist. And he's got 2 more fights at the UFC level, about 13 more minutes in the UFC cage. But, Bruno Silva has definitely fought a much better brand of competition in mixed martial arts than Alex Pereira has up to this point. And then when we see, even though Bruno Silva is a lot more experienced here, these guys are pretty much finishing fights the same way. Alex Pereira, all 4 wins inside the distance by knockout. And for Bruno Silva here, we got an 86% finish rate. So that would be 19 of his 22 wins. 19 of his 22 wins coming inside the distance, all of them by knockout. So when we look at the 26 combined wins for these two guys, we see 23 of them being inside the distance, so almost a 90% finish rate, so that you're even getting a little bit of value in comparison to the betting line at minus 600 at an 83.3% implied probability than what you would have to pay if they actually price the line based on how many of these guys' combined wins have been inside the distance. That is even better than 83%, and it is closer to 87 or 88%. So, yeah, these guys, savage finishers, both of them. Both of them have never finished anybody via submission in their mixed martial arts careers. And in their combined losses, 7 of them being inside the distance, or I'm sorry, 7 combined losses, 6 of them have been inside the distance, as Pereira was finished by Cumuel Atoni via a rear naked choke in the 3rd round of his MMA debut. And Bruno Silva has been finished 5 out of 6 times via submission and has lost only once via decision. So Bruno Silva, Alex Pereira, this is a fight that is screaming violence from the rafters like a banshee. And the bookies heard it. Everybody at home heard it. And I think everybody's going to be throwing this one into their parlays. If you're a parlay guy, you know, Magomed Ankalaev's money line this week, along with the Alex Pereira Bruno Silva fight doesn't go to decision, are like the 2 staple, you know, pieces for any parlay this week to kind of get odds down on anything else that you like out there, because these are things that are very hard to see not happening. You know, this fight going to decision is not predictable. And Thiago Santos, 9 years older than Magomed Ankalaev, pulling it out at this stage of his career after having his knees reconstructed, probably not likely as well. So let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here, you guys. We got my guy Chronic Combat Conversations. I've been on their show before. They do fantastic work. They've been having some killer guests on their show lately. Nate Manis, for one. We got Dan Tom has been on their show. So go check out Chronic Combat Conversations. Those guys do some fantastic work. Subscribe to their channel. They're part of this crew out here on YouTube that's giving you really good mixed martial arts content every single week. So check them out. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We got my guy Jarno Portilla in the room all the way from Finland. A big Makwan Amirkhani fan, I would imagine, because that guy is Mr. Finland. And but I think that Jarno Portilla might be known as Mr. Finland here very soon, being a constant visitor and supporter of this channel and the Uncle Weezy YouTube channel. Big up yourself, Jarno. Good to see you in here again, brother. And we got Effie saying, does the smaller cage impact your capping for this fight? Not really, no. I this one, the smaller cage, I think just makes it even more likely that this fight finishes, because Bruno Silva is a better grappler than Alex Pereira, but he's not a guy who goes to that grappling first. So I do think we're going to see a lot of this fight take place in the center of the cage. And Bruno is incredibly dangerous as a kickboxer as well. It's just that there are levels to the kickboxing game. And, obviously I'd be stupid if I said that, Pereira wasn't the better technically kickboxer here, the more powerful guy as well, just being an absolute savage. I mean, like literally almost killing guys in there. So it does matter. But when the fight is already minus 600 for fight doesn't go to decision, and I can't count on somebody like Bruno Silva to offensively wrestle for a full 15 minutes and use a top game and a heavy Brazilian jiu-jitsu game when he's never even subbed anybody, and he's fought 28 times as a professional. So I do see this being a very violent fight, Effie, and it really doesn't impact it any differently, because I think if you can make this cage a half mile wide and somebody would still be getting knocked the fuck out. So the fact that this one is back in the smaller cage just kind of seals that for me, that, this is a parlay piece. If I feel like getting my odds down on anything this week, I can just kind of parlay this fight doesn't go to decision with anything else. that I feel like getting just a little bit better odds on. But thank you for the question, Effie. And we got Teron Brown in the room saying, what's up? What's up, Teron? Good to see you in here. We got Victor saying, I have a feeling Pereira is going to do some real damage this Saturday. Hashtag pray for Silva. Yeah, man. You know, whether it's whatever God it is that you pray to, you know, if you are a Bruno Silva fan, you might want to just offer up a little prayer prior to this fight, because that dude's Pereira is just scary, man. You know, just to skip ahead real quick here to the strength of schedule stats, you see the win in here for Alex Pereira, which was in LFA over Thomas Powell. And this kid Powell, I guess he kind of took the fight on kind of short notice. And, you know, just as the fight was starting, Pat Miletich was saying, I don't know if it was Pat or if it was his broadcast partner at the time, but they were saying that, you know, Thomas, you know, decided to step up and take this fight. And he said, you know, guys, I got nothing to lose. And I mean, I knew what happened in this fight. I had seen Thomas Powell get knocked out before by Alex Pereira, and it's a scary knockout. And he's most certainly had something to lose by taking that fight. And all you got to do is watch the fight to find out what it was that he had to lose. And it was brain cells and brain function, because this guy is scary. This guy Pereira hits very, very hard. So if Bruno Silva, if he really values his health, he better put on his fucking singlet and absolutely wrestle his ass off on Saturday, because that would be the best way to protect him from a similar situation of what happened to poor Thomas Powell in LFA against this savage killer and that savage left hand that Alex Pereira brings. We got Teron Brown saying, I really don't care about this weekend's card. I'm ready for UFC 274. This card is not as good, but I'll tell you something, Teron. There's some bangers here. And you guys always, when you watch my Balls Deep breakdowns, when you watch me on my channel, Uncle Weezy, but always here on the MMA Engine too, when I do the Balls Deep breakdowns, the stats that we're looking at here on the screen are always available for free to download so that you can follow along with the program and take a look at the stats that I'm looking at here on the screen. Download them for free. Use them to help you make your gambling decisions. It always helps when you go into any bet with a little bit open eyes, a little bit more open eyes, where you can kind of take a look at all the statistics, all the angles before you wind up jumping into the pool neck deep. So check it out. But yeah, all these stats here are available, and we've got all these fights. I mean, like, you don't have to care about this card, but Nchukwi Mirzakhanov is a fun fight. Lungi Mbula against Brundage is going to be a fun fight. Jackson against Camuela Kirk is going to be a fun fight. Trevin Jones against the Snow Leopard, Javid Basharat, is going to be a fun fight. Matt Semblesberger against AJ Fletcher is going to be a banger. Pereira Silva, really, really fun fight. Dober McKinney, really fun fight. Roundtree and Roberson, two kickboxers, really fun fight. An up-and-coming star like Sadiq Youssef squaring off against a grizzled veteran like Alex Caceres, and then two knockout artists with Song Yadong and Marlon Moraes, and then, you know, Ankalaev going to be shaving Thiago Santos' ass most likely. But I think it's a great card from top to bottom. It doesn't have the best name power, but man, there's some bangers on this card. And if you're a fan of seeing dudes get carried out of a cage on a stretcher because they got knocked out, this is a good card for you to watch, because it's probably going to happen once or twice on this card. But thanks for checking in, Teron. Appreciate it, man. And we got Chronic saying, love hanging out with our Uncle Weezy. Love hanging out with you too, brother. It was fun doing your show as well, man. And Teron saying Alex will KO Bruno. That's probably the most likely scenario there, Teron. And I think the bookies agree with you, brother. And Dazfile saying ends by TKO might be different. Yeah, and that would be very interesting to see, because Bruno Silva's never submitted anyone. And when he does get guys down on his back, it's his ground and pound that's the most terrifying, not his arm triangles or his rear naked chokes, man. He's looking to pound your head through the canvas. And if he can't pound your head through the canvas, he'll knock your liver through your spine, because he did that to poor Artem Frolov, and that dude was in pain. And then Jarno saying, wow, that was great. And we got Tehran saying, I wish the UFC would make Tony Ferguson and Michael Chandler official already. It's in the works for UFC 274. That would be a banger, man. There has never been a boring Tony Ferguson fight ever, dude. I'm a huge fan of El Kukui, huge fan of Michael Chandler. That would be a great fight. Agree with you, Tehran. And Tehran saying Alex P is going to challenge Izzy. That would be fun if he got back up to that level and got to fight, in an MMA fight for the championship against the guy that he knocked out as a kickboxer. So, Effie's saying, who has the clinch advantage? Alex, right? Well, Alex has got the longer reach, but I'll tell you something. When you look at Bruno Silva in the clinch, he is absolutely no joke. On the regional scene, he knocked out a dude with a knee in the clinch that was absolutely savage. It was the fight before the Shlemenko fight. It was an absolute killer knee. So I've seen Bruno Silva use those knees just as well as Pereira might use them, and the elbows as well. So I don't know who has the clinch advantage in this fight. But I do think that we're going to be spending a good amount of time in the clinch here, especially if Bruno Silva is consistently trying to close the distance, not let Pereira set those feet, throw that big left hand, throw those big head kicks that he throws, especially because Pereira's got a 6-inch reach advantage and a 4-inch height advantage. I think that's an excellent question, Effie, because, if Bruno Silva is smart, even if he's not necessarily getting takedowns, which he should be trying to get against a guy like Pereira, at least he can wind up in the clinch and he might be safer there than he would be at distance. So I would say that it's going to probably be very close because I haven't sat back and watched Alex Pereira's whole kickboxing career. Frankly, I do all my tape study on the MMAplay365.com tape index that's available for $3.95 a month. If you're an MMA gambling degenerate and you make tape study a big part of your research for betting like I do, this is an absolute must-have. And we've got 5 fights here for Alex Pereira, and they're all MMA fights. So I would have to go outside of this to go get the kickboxing fights. And, frankly, I don't watch that as much just because, MMA is completely different. Once you introduce the threat of the takedown, the how you would fight a kickboxing fight as a kickboxer is way different than how you would approach a mixed martial arts opponent. So, we've seen Pereira submitted by Cumuel Atoni, but then he's knocked out these dudes and knocked them out violently. So I think that Bruno Silva, though, would be a lot safer in the clinch than he would be at distance. I'll tell you that. So Paul Brassfield is saying, I love this card. Lots of great opportunities if you dig a little. And always the further you dig, the more angles you can find, the more reasons you can find usually to support one fighter more than another. But you always have to be honest with yourself about what the other fighter brings to the table and how they could succeed. You can't just put that out of your mind because, nothing's a lock in this sport ever. But yeah, there are great opportunities and you can find them the further that you dig, Paul. Excellent point. Tehran saying, I'm not really a fan of the UFC Fight Night card. I'm more of a pay-per-view guy. I love the crowd. UFC Apex events don't really have a crowd. I'd like to see them get back to just having crowds for all the events. It's always more exciting when you got the roar of the crowd behind it. So I agree with you. And Tehran saying, yeah, you're right, bro. It's some good fights on this card. It is. They're bangers, man. They are. A lot of people are dancing on Tony Ferguson's grave saying Chandler is going to knock Ferguson out. Not sure why they think that. Justin G couldn't do it. Why would Chandler be any different? Yeah, Justin, it took him until the 5th. And even then, Tony was like still a zombie, still coming forward. But you could tell the attrition had gotten to El Kukui in that fight, and I mean, you can't blame him for that. Justin Gaethje hits as hard as any lightweight on the planet. So, it's one of these things. And, he lost to Oliveira on the ground. He lost to Gaethje on the feet. Yeah, Chandler's a different challenge. And Tony Ferguson, you don't ever doubt that guy's toughness or heart. So, going to be a great fight, man. Looking forward to watching it. But let's get back to the stats here and let's talk striking. So Pereira landed 2.08 significant strikes per minute, only absorbed 0.57 against Mihalidis, landed at a 61% rate, one knockdown in 11 significant strikes. It was the jump knee. So he's averaging 2.83 knockdowns for 15 minutes, which is fantastic, but it's over a very small sample size. 72% striking defense. While Bruno Silva has got really good numbers in his own right, you guys. He's landing 5.74 significant strikes per minute and absorbing 2.87. We've got a 60% striking accuracy. He's landed one knockdown in 108 significant strikes landed. But here's a big problem, you guys. It's the 32.5% striking defense here for Bruno Silva. That's going to be a big problem against a guy like Alex Pereira. Let's face it, man. This is a guy who just needed 11 significant strikes to end Andreas Mihalidis, and Mihalidis controlled over 75% of that fight in controlled time positions. So, if you look at a 5-minute fight, you say, yeah, it took him 5 minutes to knock him out, but he was being controlled for 75% of that 5 minutes. So, at 2.65, 1.375, so we're talking about like he got that knockout in like 1.35 minutes of stand-up time. That's all it took, and it was very quickly into that second round, only 0.3 of a round. So, 0.3 of a minute. So that's 18 seconds into that second round. He got that jump knee and Mihalidis was done. So this is a guy who has absolutely savage power. He can get you with the knees. He can get you with the elbows. He can get you with kicks at a distance. And he's got incredible length, and he's going to have a huge reach advantage here. And Bruno Silva with that 32.5% striking defense, if I was coaching this guy, that would be the camp. The camp would be clinching, wrestling, and doing everything you can not to spend any seconds at distance striking with this Alex Pereira, because you hate your sanity, you hate your brain health if you're standing at distance voluntarily with this guy when you're supposedly a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. Now, Bruno Silva has been finished in 5 of his 6 pro losses, all of them by submission. So I don't know how good of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt he is, but if it's any good at all, he better be leaning on it. And the thing is, too, you don't really have to worry about Bruno necessarily trying to get submissions on the ground. If he gets this fight to the ground, you guys, the striking numbers for Bruno Silva are going to be most effective and most terrifying when he's in ground and pound positions, because the finish against Artem Frolov on the ground was absolutely savage. Like I said, we've seen him end guys with standing knees in the clinch, so he can do that as well. But then you look at the ground and pound finish against Wellington Turman. He wasn't even winding up full blast on those shots. He was just landing them in the right spots. The dude has naturally heavy hands. So as important as it is for Alex Pereira to keep this fight standing, it's equally as important for Bruno Silva to get this fight into the clinch, and then from there to try to get the fight to the ground so that he can get into top position and then execute what will be his best weapon in this particular matchup. It'll be his ground and pound, you guys. So unfortunately, what I don't have for you guys here is any grappling data really on Alex Pereira. He hasn't attempted any takedowns. Mihalidis was 2 of 7 on takedowns in the first round of this fight. He got 75% control time against Alex Pereira, but even though he was able to manage 75% control time, it only took Pereira, a good minute in order to find enough time to find this dude's chin and end the fight. So he is absolutely able to give up minutes on the ground. The best grappling footage that you're going to really find of Pereira is in the debut against Cumuel Atoni. And I want to be clear about this fight. It looks like Pereira lost. This guy Atoni, you want to talk about a Homer Simpson. Pereira was kicking the shit out of this guy. He was landing left hooks, the same kind of left hooks that sent Thomas Powell to the hospital and we'll probably have him like eating mush like 10 years from now as his only meal because that knockout fucked him up so bad. This guy, Cumuelo Tony, took like 10 left hooks from Alex Pereira at different parts of this fight that looked like exactly the left hooks that Pereira ended Powell's MMA career with. Look, Pereira should be 5-0, and this guy Tony has a rubber chin, and he was just it was like watching Homer Simpson because he was actually, a little bit soft around the middle, but he did have a lot of success grappling against Pereira. He won the first round with his grappling. He was offensive wrestling, and then for some reason, Tony went out there in the second against Pereira and voluntarily just kickboxed with him. And Pereira was landing shots over and over and over again. But this dude, Tony, had a ridiculous chin. So, but we do have to mention that Bruno Silva has 28 professional fights, 138 minutes in the cage, and he's never been knocked out. So, I suppose potentially, we have to, potentially entertain the idea that maybe Silva could remain safe at distance on the feet against Alex Pereira. I don't want to say that I believe that that's his best path. It's definitely not. But he's never been knocked out. He's been in there with guys like Shlemenko, guys that knock people out. Guys like, even Jordan Wright, has got serious power. Andrew Sanchez has knocked people out in the UFC on the feet too. Wellington Turman, and Wellington Turman is a very good grappler. He won that one via knockout. So, this guy Silva, is very, very dangerous. But where he really wants to be in this fight is on the ground. Because even though Alex Pereira has been training at Teixeira MMA in Connecticut, in Danbury, Connecticut, with Glover Teixeira, and I think he's been there for almost 2 years now, that's a great place to work your MMA grappling. And he will be getting better, but he's already 34 years old, you guys. So there's only so many leaps and bounds that we can expect Alex Pereira to be making in his grappling. And we have to keep it in our mind that this guy, Bruno Silva, is not somebody that's been using his grappling to win fights thus far. This guy is another mixed martial artist who has savage power in his hands, and he knocks people out for a living. He has an 86% career finish rate by knockout in 22 professional wins. That's 19 out of 22. So Bruno Silva absolutely has power, and we don't want to just be lazy when we're analyzing this fight and just say, oh, it's automatically Pereira on the feet. Dude, go watch the Cumuelo Tony fight. After Pereira cracks Homer Simpson in the chin about 15 times and he doesn't go down, he gets tired, and Tony starts fucking putting it on Alex Pereira on the feet from a distance. It's happened. This guy hasn't won every single second of every single striking exchange he's ever had on the feet. He is fallible, but I'm just telling you, this guy Tony was taking serious punishment, and it didn't even look like he was eating those shots like pancakes. It was bizarre to watch because we know how hard this guy Pereira hits, and we know that he's got life-changing power to where if he hits you in the chin, your life might be changed. And it's not going to be for the better, you guys. It's going to be for the worse, for the much worse. So enough of me gushing about both of these guys' power. Bruno Silva will be trying to take this fight to the ground. He's attempted 3 takedowns in 3 UFC fights. He's had 22 attempted against him. So when you see that kind of a ratio, almost an 8-to-1 ratio of your opponents trying to take you down in relation to you trying to take them down, it is a sign that, hey, look, everybody's terrified of Bruno Silva's power. So Pereira can't just say, I'm way better than this guy on the feet. He can't hurt me. He absolutely can. Strength of schedule. Look, it's Bruno Silva all day, you guys. It's not even negotiable. Jordan Wright, Andrew Sanchez, Wellington Turman, all 3 of them far better opponents than Andreas Mihalidis. when you go prior to that for Pereira, Thomas Powell, Marcus Vinicius, Marcelo Cruz, and Cumuel Tony. Low level regional scene opponents here. While we've got Bruno Silva prior to being in the UFC, this guy is going out there and fighting guys like Alexander Shlemenko. I mean, a legend. He was the M1 champion after beating Artem Frolov in round 4 with ground and pound that he finished with body shots. Artem Frolov here, 336 in round 4, a guy who's undefeated fighting in M1. A win over Gennady Kovalev. That was the knockout that he dropped that dude with a knee in the clinch. Savage knockout, 254 round 1. Or I'm sorry, 410 around 1. The Musato fight not available, 110 of round 1. But he's 5-1. He loses to Moise Rimbon, who is a journeyman Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who submits a ton of guys. That guy's got out of those 22 wins, I think 18 of them are by submission, or he's got 14 different submissions. The guy gets all kinds of different attacks. So that was the last time that Bruno Silva lost by submission, and that was the year 2016. So after that, he took a whole bunch of steroids and he went to Russia and he started shaving people's asses. And and these guys that he's beating are the opposite of scrubs in Masato, Kovalev, Shlemenko, and Frolov, before serving a 2-year suspension for all those steroids that he was taking. And then he comes in, pounds Wellington Turman's head through the canvas, knocks out Andrew Sanchez, standing KO, and then drops Jordan Wright and finishes him after having a little bit of trouble on the feet. So when it comes to the strength of schedule, you can't even compare mixed martial arts competition here between Pereira and Silva. Pereira's mixed martial arts competition, much lower level. And I just, for my own personal, I want to know more about Cumuel Tony. But Miaulides 13-4. Thomas Powell was 4-4. He stepped in on short notice to take that fight. And then prior to that, we have to go back to 2016 to find a mixed martial arts fight against a 6-0 Marcus Vinicius in Jungle fight. And then before that, it was Marcelo Cruz, 8-7. And then before that, in Jungle fight, it was the Cumuel Tony loss. Israel Adesanya in kickboxing, he won a unanimous decision in 2016, and then he knocked him out in 2017 in Glory. Glory of Heroes, that is. So Cumuel Tony now is 11-3. So he's got a good record here, this guy. 11-3. Let's see if he's got any other signature wins besides Pereira. Let's see. Junior Marquez 9-2. Andre Ricardo 8-2. Arsen Tengizov 2-0 in Berkut Young Eagles. So he was fighting over there in Japan. Or I mean in Russia. Yeah, so not really much, but yeah. So, obviously we got to give that strength of schedule edge here to Bruno Silva. He's the far more experienced guy. He's going to be the better grappler and wrestler here. He's faced the better competition, but Pereira, obviously a massive striking advantage, a power advantage, a technical striking advantage, and then you add the 4 inches of height and the 6 inches of reach, and it looks really good for Pereira to be able to win minutes and moments on the feet and potentially end the fight there. However, Pereira has looked like a fish out of water on the ground. And when Tony got him to the ground in the 3rd round of their fight, you could tell he kind of just gave up. He didn't have an answer. So Alex Pereira's ground game leaves a lot to be desired. And there's only so much in terms of improvements that we can be expecting out of a 34-year-old at this point of the game. So I guess the question is how smart do you think Bruno Silva is going to fight? I mean, can we count on him to fight a really smart fight? Because, I mean, if we're honest with ourselves, Andreas Michailidis fought a smart fight against Pereira, won the 1st round against him, and Michailidis is not a world beater, but he is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he will use his wrestling to get fights to the ground. So I don't even know if we've seen Bruno Silva initiate as many wrestling exchanges as we've seen Andreas Michailidis go for that. So can we count on Silva to wrestle enough in order to keep Pereira at bay and not stand with him long enough to eat a big left hook? I don't think so, you guys. Whichever way you're going here, just pick them to win inside the distance. If the bookies are telling you where they open the line is minus 600 for fight doesn't go to decision, 83.3% implied probability, you just tell them no thanks and you move on. So maybe what you do is just take that little extra juice and say, if I'm on Pereira, I'm taking him inside the distance. And if I'm on Silva, I'm taking him inside the distance. But right now, for this fight, as you guys see on the ticker there, the best line that you can find on Alex Pereira is minus 170 on DraftKings. And we got the comeback on DraftKings for Bruno Silva is plus 150. The fight doesn't go to decision, minus 600 on both 5 dimes and Bet Online. And then we've got the under 1.5 sitting at minus 160 on 5 dimes and minus 170 on, my God. I mean, that's like over a 62% implied probability for this thing to finish. You're basically saying 5/8 of a chance this thing finishes in under 7.5 minutes. And that is saying that they are very confident that this fight is going to end violently, as am I. Pereira inside the distance, you get it minus 140 instead of minus 180 in a lot of other spots. And then Silva inside the distance, instead of like plus 150 or plus 160, you can get that up to plus 205. Like we say, Silva has finished 90% of his pro wins inside the distance. So this is a guy you can count on finishing, especially because if he does get to spots where he's going to be better than Silva, which is specifically on the ground where he can start working that ground and pound. I mean, if he can ground and pound a guy like Wellington Turman, who is as dangerous off his back with submissions as we just saw in the Misha Serkinov fight, then he can certainly do it to Pereira. So, the fight doesn't go to decision is probably a very good parlay piece if you can find it any place to parlay it, but otherwise it's kind of unbettable. Let's see what you guys are saying here in the chat. But yeah, Silva inside the distance plus 205, I think is a decent look. Pereira by decision is plus 705, and Silva by decision is plus 775. That's how confident the bookies are that this fight is going to finish inside the distance. Man, that's crazy. Let's see what you guys are saying here in the chat. So my guy Lou Betya in the room saying the Snow Leopard is the future champ. You heard it here first. Well, I know that my guy Lou is very big on Javid, and he's going to have his work cut out for him here against Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and no-gi grappling champion in Trevin Jones, who has a lot of power in that lead right hand. It's going to be a very good test here for Javid right off the bat, and it's going to be interesting to see how he handles it. Great fight. This card is very underrated in terms of how many bangers there are on it. Teron Brown saying Alex Caceres and Sadiq Youssef should be a good fight. I'm picking Alex to win. Yeah, Alex is a great veteran. He's been around the block so many times, and he came through some adversity in that last win against Sung Woo Choi. So yeah, man, I'm done shorting that guy at this point. But Sadiq Youssef is going to be a very tough opponent. Bon Kui saying, yeah, Alex is bad when he gets pressured. Very true. And with volume, and if you could take that left hand away from him, you can really work him with boxing. But Poatan can snap that thing out of nowhere. Yeah, dude. And I mean, you look at that knockout against Powell, it didn't even look like he didn't really wind up on that. It was just, the timing was perfect, but you can tell that left hand, the way that he turns his hips, it's like a golfer turning his hips into a big driver swing. I mean, when you use those hips and you see that he does, it's like when you see Dak Prescott warming up before a game and he's just throwing those hips. When you rotate that lower body, it just brings the power into your upper body. And Poatang is a master of it, man. He does. I mean, like Pat Miletich said, after he knocked out Powell, he said, man, that left hand is like a bullwhip. And he goes, a bullwhip. And Pat Miletich knows what the fuck he's talking about, man. So, I mean, he could snap that thing for sure. Artem Frolov just knocked out Pessoa. Holy shit. Yeah, dude, Frolov's a stud. You know, I mean, that people think that, he came in, with some regional scene wins. No, man, this guy was, he was the M1 champion. I mean, this guy Silva's high level, dude. This is a big step up for Poetang. MMA Asphalt in the room saying, oi, 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 what's up, MMA Asphalt? Another great channel to go check out here on YouTube for MMA content. Bon Kui saying, a Tony fights in LFA this week. A Tony is going to be fighting in Jungle Fight this week. It's not... yeah, it's going to be in Jungle Fight, dude. Check it out. I was looking at that LFA card because I love LFA. And, oh, fuck, what did I do here? That's the Bruno Silva. So, yeah, Alex Pereira. If we go to a Tony here, Tony's got a fight in Jungle Fight coming up this week against Jose Diaz. And that's on the 27th, so it's a couple weeks from now. But yeah, Tony's back, and he's 11-3, man. The guy's got, and having that win over Silva is going to be huge. Yeah, Bon Kui says he's never been KO'd. Yeah, and that is a fact here because we see Lemos choked him out. We see Kleber Sosa choked him out. We see Dos Santos won by decision, but yeah, he's never been knocked out. And I'm telling you, when you watch that fight, you're like, how the fuck is this guy still standing after some of those shots he took from Pereira? Especially when you see what Pereira does when he hits other people. So yeah, and Vic calling it out here, and he's absolutely right, man. That 32% striking defense is very concerning when fighting somebody like Pereira. It almost makes him unbettable. It really does, because you just don't see a commitment to the wrestling and to the clinch enough on the regional scene to think that he's going to spend enough minutes, in a safe place to be safe from that left hand, to be safe from those head kicks, to be safe from that jump knee that he knocked out Mihalidis with. It's not like this guy just has a left hand. He's got so much more. And he's got that, I mean, like the body for the 205 weight class is perfect, dude. He's so long. He's so tall, but he's got a lot of muscle on that frame too, which is where the power comes from. So absolutely, Victor, it's very, very concerning. I'll probably do a small parlay with Pereira inside the distance and stab the hell out of it with Silva inside the distance to hedge it. Yeah, because either way, somebody's getting served, right, Victor? My guy Nandalal Razaya saying, left hooks still have to catch the opponent looking away. If Bruno eyes everything in and doesn't shell, put against the cage, he could be golden. I've seen Bruno pull that shell before, though, man. You see him do it on the regional scene against Shlemenko and against Frolov. And even the announcers were calling it out a little bit. So he does shell up every once in a while as defense. And they were saying the reason that you don't do that in MMA is because you don't have those big boxing gloves or kickboxing gloves that you can actually prevent those shots, those straight shots from going through your guard. In MMA, it just doesn't work. So yeah, he does need to not shell up when he is in the exchanges. And he really kind of needs to keep an eye on that left hand and know where it is at all times, man. And even better would be to never see it at all and just, have the crown of your head on that dude's chin, and preferably with his back pressed firmly against the canvas. Bon Kui saying, no, you're not, man. It's just, no, he's got a fight coming up, but there's another guy in LFA who's got a weird ass first name, kind of like Cumuel. So I think that's what you're thinking of, brother. Dude, and thank you for always supporting the channel, MMA Asphalt. You do great content out there, man. And we recognize each other. I appreciate you, brother. Cuban Assassin saying only one Artem the GOAT Lobov, greatest sports combat fighter of all time. You said it. I have nothing to add to that. My guy Jorno saying Perkelly is powerful Finnish curse word, and this fight screams for it. Perkelly, huh? I did not know that one, but yeah, man. This one is one of those ones that, this one is violence waiting to happen. It's curses waiting to happen. The curse of having to eat all your meals through a straw after either one of these guys lands a big shot because they both got such savage power, you guys. But hey, we're 50 minutes in here. We've talked about all the angles of this fight. You guys, I really do believe that Alex Pereira is not going to be put into enough situations on the ground. And I don't like Bruno Silva's top control in wrestling enough to think that he'll be able to keep Pereira in places he'll be uncomfortable long enough to stay conscious here. I got to pick Alex Pereira by knockout. And I don't think I will be getting to the bet though, because there are just so many hurdles to overcome. To bet him, I would probably, even because there's so little advantage to taking that inside the distance rather than just the line, because the line is like minus 180 and the inside the distance is minus 140. So there's not a lot of value there. So I would just say, maybe parlay the fight doesn't go to decision. But Pereira should be able to find a knockout at some point in this fight, just because I don't see enough commitment to the wrestling in other fights for me to believe that he can stay safe long enough in order for either to find that ground and pound knockout on the ground or to find a submission, which we've never seen him do in almost 30 professional fights. So I think the safe pick here is going to be Pereira inside the distance. But I just think, for a guy with only 5 mixed martial arts fights, giving up a ton of experience, giving up some grappling experience, having fought the much worse brand of competition so far in his mixed martial arts career, and being finished by a guy like Cuneo Tony. But like I say, dude, if Tony didn't have that chin, that would have never happened. Tony's got a legendary chin. I don't know how he took those shots from Silva, but I can't wait for this fight. And frankly, when a fight is this good and this exciting, I don't really feel the need to have a ton of money on it because I'm going to be excited just watching this one. So, but yeah, you guys, the pick is going to be Pereira inside the distance by knockout. I would also take a look at FanDuel.com to see if we can get fight ends by KO at better than minus 500 for this fight, which would be a way just to get a little bit better of a line here, because you're paying minus 600 for the fight doesn't go to decision. But any kind of a discount you could get to just give up that submission prop, because we'll just do a quick little bit of math here, you guys. Pereira 4 wins, Bruno Silva 22, so 26 total wins, and 23 of them have been by knockout. So all 100% of these guys combined inside the distance wins have come by knockout. So, and the 100% of their losses inside the distance have come by submission. But since neither one of these guys has ever submitted anybody, I would think that fight ends by KO. If you can get it at minus 500, it could be even a better parlay piece than the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 600. But I'm going to leave it there for you guys. Thank you for hanging out, all 20 of you guys, when they were a little bit more than that earlier, for hanging out on the brand new MMA Engine YouTube channel. There's going to be a lot more content coming from this channel, and you're going to be looking forward to this website coming soon, MMA-engine.com. We're going to be bringing you guys a lot of fantastic gambling content and DFS content purely for the UFC fan. I can't wait to bring that to you guys. But let me just say goodbye to you guys in the chat here real quick. And we've got MMA Asphalt saying, earlier I thought Bruno would be a good dog pick, but the more and more you get into it, I think Pereira is the favorite for a reason. I think if I'm going to bet it, I'm going to do Pereira by KO. Yeah, that's probably the best way to go here. I mean, that's his path here. He's probably not going to win a ton of minutes, because I think as the minutes go on, the longer that this fight, takes place, the more likely it is that Bruno Silva is having some success in the grappling realm. Thanks, Weezy in chat. Over 1.5 is plus 125 if you've got iron teeth. Yeah, I hear that. But, I mean, I could see it making it that far, especially if Silva does have some success with the grappling early. Bon Qui saying, if you want to torture yourself, bet Pereira via decision at plus 770. That would be a fun one, man. DFS by the number saying you'll take 3 years off your life betting the over 1.5 in this fight. And he is so right about that, man. Jarno saying, thanks again, Weezy. Thanks for hanging out, Jarno. Appreciate you. Victor de Jesus saying, have a good night, Weezy, in chat. Thank you, Victor. Uncertainty saying, thanks. Thanks, Uncle Weezy, for your hard work. Thanks for hanging out, Uncertainty. Appreciate you, brother. And Effie saying, great show, brother. Appreciate you, Effie. And MMA Asphalt saying, thanks, Weezy. Thanks, chat. Thanks, everybody, for watching. God bless each and every one of you guys for spending your Monday night on the MMA Engine YouTube channel, breaking down this absolute banger of a UFC Vegas 50 fight here between Alex Pereira and Bruno Silva. And guys, let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 50. I will see you guys tomorrow night on my channel, 10 o'clock Central Time, Uncle Weezy, for just the tip. And we will finish like we always do after breaking down all 14 fights on this UFC Vegas 50 card with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Who's it going to be? Check me out tomorrow night on my channel to find out. Good night, you guys. We will talk to you soon.